Season 4, Episode 4, and the finale. The first 3 episodes, we did 3 things. Eval, how you know the system is right. Observability, whether it's still right on real traffic. Safety, whether it holds up when someone attacks it. Today, the last episode asks the question everyone reaches for first, and almost always too early. Should I fine-tune this model? Let me put the honest card on the table right up front. Fine-tuning, taken all the way apart, is transfer learning, plus a data pipeline, plus that eval gate we covered in the first episode. The only piece in there that genuinely counts as new for the AI era is one thing. It's called LoRA. And the loudest honest card in this episode is this. Fine-tuning is your last resort, not your first move. Most of the time, you shouldn't fine-tune at all. This episode, we're going to make it clear when you should and when you absolutely shouldn't. Let's take it apart. Around fine-tuning, there are just 4 questions. 1, should you fine-tune at all? Or is RAG or a prompt enough? 2, if you do fine-tune, is it a full fine-tune or LoRA? 3, how do you handle the data? 4, once you fine-tune, does it break everything else? Of these 4, except for that one little piece called LoRA, it's all decades-old machine learning, transfer learning, data engineering, regression testing. 4 demos, one at a time. And this episode is going to keep pulling you back to the first 3. The first one, and it's the star. Should you fine-tune? The key isn't which method is fancier. It's which kind of gap you're facing. There are 2. One is a knowledge gap. The model doesn't know some fact. The other is a behavior gap. The model can't produce the format, the tone, or the shape of the task you want.
I took the same model, 2 kinds of task, 400 cases each, and ran all 3 methods. The knowledge task, with just a prompt, 61%. Fine-tuning, 67%. And it burns the fact into the weights, so the moment that fact changes, it's stale. But RAG, 90%. Because a knowledge gap is exactly what retrieval is for. Now flip it, the behavior task. A RAG only gets 68%. Retrieval can't help with format. Fine-tuning, 93%. This is when it actually earns that cost.
Let me make it concrete. Your customer support bot doesn't know your company's refund policy for this month? That's a knowledge gap. You drop the policy doc into the retrieval store and it knows it on the spot. Next month, the policy changes, you just edit the doc. If you fine-tune the policy into the weights, next month you have to train the whole thing all over again. But flip it. You want every single reply to strictly follow your ticket JSON format, with the tone always in your brand's voice. That's a behavior gap. No matter how much prompting you write, it's hit or miss. And this is where fine-tuning actually belongs. Do you see the divide? Knowledge gap, RAG wins. Behavior gap, fine-tuning wins. And in the real world, the vast majority of we need to fine-tune requests are actually knowledge problems. The model is missing a fact. And RAG is cheaper and never goes stale. It beats fine-tuning hands down. So the order is this. Try a prompt first. It takes minutes and costs almost nothing. If that doesn't do it, most likely you go to RAG. Only when the gap is a behavior that neither a prompt nor retrieval can reach do you touch fine-tuning. The second part, LoRA. Even if you do decide to fine-tune, don't jump straight to a full fine-tune. A full fine-tune updates every single weight in the model. For a 7 billion parameter model, just the weights, gradients, and optimizer state you have to hold during training run to 100+ gigs of RAM. Usually more than one GPU can fit, so you need several. LoRA takes a different approach. Freeze the base model. Leave it untouched, and only train a tiny low-rank adapter hung off the side of each layer.
I ran the numbers. Same task. A full fine-tune hits 88%, LoRA hits 87%. 1 point apart. But how different is the cost? A full fine-tune trains 7 billion parameters. LoRA trains only 8.4 million, about 0.1% of the model, roughly 1 in 1,000. RAM drops from 100+ gigs to 17 gigs. 1 GPU is enough. And the thing you end up shipping, The full fine-tune is a 14 gig full model copy. LoRA is a 17 megabyte adapter.
You might ask. Train 1,000th of the parameters and get nearly the same result. How? There's a pretty elegant observation behind it. When you fine-tune for one task, the little change it makes to the weights is itself low rank. There just isn't that much information in it, so you don't need to move all the weights. A small, low-rank matrix is enough to express that change. LoRA just turns that observation directly into a tool. And the gap isn't only about saving money. Say you have to serve 10 tasks. Full fine-tuning is 10 14 gig models stacked up there. LoRA is one base with 10 adapters of a dozen odd megabytes each hung on it. You hot swap whichever one you need. That parameter-efficient trick, LoRA, is the one thing in this whole episode that genuinely belongs to the AI era. Everything else is old transfer learning. The third part, data. The human instinct is, it's not working well, so just feed it more data. But the nastiest thing about fine-tuning is this. The model learns everything you feed it, including your mislabeled labels and your inconsistent formatting. Dirty data doesn't just fail to help. It actively teaches the model the wrong thing.
I took the same base model at 62% and fed it 4 different datasets. 10,000 examples, but 25% mislabeled and messy formatting, dirty data. Fine-tuned, it comes out at 69%, barely a hair above the base. 1,000 clean, consistent ones. 83%. 200 clean ones. 74%. Did you catch the most painful comparison? Those 10,000 dirty ones, at 69%, lose to the 200 clean ones at 74%, even though there's 50 times the data.
So the bottleneck in fine-tuning was never the algorithm and never the amount of data. It's a small set of clean, consistent, representative data. A few hundred to 1,000 hand-picked examples crush a huge pile you just dumped in. This is exactly the same honest card as the eval episode at the start of the season. Garbage in, confident garbage out. Data is about curation, not volume. The fourth part, and it's another honest card. Catastrophic forgetting. Train hard on one task, and it really does get stronger at that task. But at the same time, quietly, it gets worse at everything else. And if the only thing you're watching is the metric for the task you trained, you can't see this at all.
I simulated it. The base model is at 55% on the target task, 78% on general ability. Train hard on the target task only. The task shoots up to 90%. Beautiful. But general ability drops from 78% to 58%. Down 20 points. It forgot a big chunk of what it used to know. A gate that only checks whether the target task went up waves it right through, all smiles.
But if you put on that broad eval gate from the first episode, test not just the target task, but general ability too. It catches this 20-point regression on the spot and blocks it.
The fix is an old one too. Replay. During fine-tuning, mix some general data back in so it doesn't overwrite the old knowledge. Do that, and the task still holds at 88% while general ability holds at 77%. You trade 2 task points for 19 general ones.
See, catastrophic forgetting is, at its core, a regression. And the way you catch it is the same move you used to catch regressions in the first episode. The honest card. Fine-tuning, taken apart piece by piece, is this. Transfer learning, plus a data pipeline, plus that eval gate from the first episode. The only genuinely new thing in there is that parameter-efficient trick, LoRA. Everything else is old machine learning. Pick the method, clean the data, guard against regression. And the loudest honest card of all is this. Fine-tuning is the last resort, not the first. A knowledge gap. Hand it to Raj. A behavior gap. Try a prompt first. Only when that behavior is out of reach for both a prompt and retrieval do you touch fine-tuning. And you have to pay for it. You have to gather clean data, you take on the risk of forgetting, and it goes stale as the facts change. The vast majority of the time, you think you need to fine-tune, but what you actually need is a better prompt or a retrieval store. Let's wrap up. Not just this episode, the whole of Season 4. The 4 episodes this season are really one thread. Eval is a test suite with a judge. Observability is the APM stack you were already running, plus a probe for quality drift. Safety is input validation, DLP, defense in depth, that same old security. Fine-tuning is transfer learning with an eval gate. Have you noticed? Operating an AI system in production, taken all the way apart, is the classic software and machine learning engineering you already knew, with AI touching just a function or two right at the seams. The models are new, but the craft of keeping them running steady is old. In Season 3, we built these AI systems one by one. In Season 4, we learned how to trust them, how to watch them, how to defend them, and, on the rare occasion, very carefully, how to change them. Million ways, and these 2 seasons on system design for the AI era. This is where we pause. Thank you for listening all the way to here. We'll see you in the next series.